Greetings, Watford fans, wherever you are across the world. I'm Omar Moore, and welcome to the Orns Friday Focus. On this focus, it's Watford against Newcastle in the Premier League on Saturday. That's right, tomorrow is the scene, and it's at Vicarage Road in the Premier League. Watford looking to build on their performance against Norwich and looking for their second consecutive Premier League win of the season. This would be a good fixture to try to go after at and get that win as they take on a Newcastle side who have, like Norwich, yet to win a game in the Premier League this season. Newcastle's last opponent, Leeds, held them to a 1-1 draw up at St. James's Park a week ago today. And Watford's last opponent was Norwich City, and that was last Saturday. Of course, it was a successful away day for the Golden Boys as they ran out 3-1 winners, dominating Norwich throughout the game in their best performance of the season for sure in the Premier League. I think that they did do a very good job from start to finish, unlike in the Aston Villa game where they got tripped up there in the final minute with the clumsy player. You talk about this a lot with Adam Messina that gave away a penalty. Watford were defensively solid. They had a real command of the game against Norwich, which I don't necessarily think they had against Aston Villa, despite the fact that they raced out to a 3-0 lead. There were lapses in that game that Watford had against Villa that I think got papered over because Watford won the game. But in the game against Norwich, Watford really didn't have any of those lapses. Their mentality was totally committed, 110% from the off, and they scored in the first 20 minutes, scored in the 17th minute, and they went from there. And even when they did lapse just so slightly by allowing Norwich to come back into the game, Watford, after the half, came back strong and went about their business and got on the front foot. And that's what they're going to have to do again tomorrow against Newcastle. Get on the front foot, do it early, use the crowd. I'm sure the Vic is going to be rocking tomorrow, especially the Rookery, as it always does and always is. I expect that Watford will feed off of that and get an early goal to put Newcastle aside. I think that's going to happen. Watford, look, I didn't see the game against Stoke, but all the Watford fans that I've consulted, fellow Watford fans have told me who have seen the game or were at the game, said that Watford performed very well and did everything but score basically in when they had to score, except for the one goal they got. And that goal was a back heel. I actually saw that highlight. But if Watford continue to perform the way they did against Norwich and the way that everyone who saw the game has been saying they performed against Stoke, and certainly the manager, Cisco, has said the very same about the Stoke performance. If Watford keep performing like that, these results are going to come. It doesn't matter who they're playing. If they give a performance like that, they're going to be very, very difficult to beat. The Stoke game, well, look, that's just one in a million games. Every season and a half or 2 seasons, you get a game like that. I mean, it might happen more to some teams than it does to others, but it's rare that that happens to teams in the top flight more than once a season or two, where you do everything that you possibly can to score, but you don't score or that you come out on the end of it losing. It happens, but it does not happen as much, I think, at least, as you might think. So the keys for the game tomorrow for me, for Watford, come out with the same mentality that you've come out the last 2 games with, Norwich and Stoke, and come out fired up and make sure that you score in the first 10 to 15 minutes. Settle yourselves down, set your stall out, and keep pushing that mentality. Do not relent. Now, I get it that you're not going to be playing at a tempo at 95 miles an hour throughout the entire match. But what you should have switched on is the mentality tempo, the tempo of mentality. And that word is really important. I can't stress it enough. I've said it over and over again. And Cisco's been saying it all week, at least the last couple of days, about how important mentality is. And I've stressed the same thing. I mean, it's as if, I don't know, maybe someone's listened to this particular YouTube video or to the podcast. I don't know. I don't think that you have to listen to the podcast to know that. Obviously, it's something that Cisco knows. He didn't have to listen to anybody, actually. I'm sure he's very keenly aware as a manager of all his experience that mentality is the most important thing. And I strongly believe that. The formations come and go, and formations are important. But again, if you don't apply a certain tempo and a mentality with the formation you've got, it doesn't mean much of anything, and you get undone quickly. And I think Watford are maturing now. And as I've said before, it's still going to take a few more games. We get to game 8, 9, and 10. Once we get around that area in the Premier League games 8, 9, and 10, we're going to start to see what Watford are about. Tufan probably will not start tomorrow. I would love to see it happen, but I don't think it will. And I do agree with fellow Watford fans who say they're probably going to bet him in a bit more slowly and then perhaps give him a start. So I definitely think that that's probably more likely. He'll likely be named to the bench. You can expect that Ben Foster will be in goal again, as Bachmann does have a slight knee injury. Even the notion of a slight knee injury to me is a little disconcerting, but hopefully it is not too bad and Bachmann is able to get back soon to where he wants to be and get back in the best of health. I think in your starting back line, you should expect no changes there. I don't think that Sierra is going to get back into the starting lineup, although it's very possible that he could. Expect the same pairing of Cathcart and Truce Kong. To the best of my knowledge, neither of them played on Tuesday night against Stoke, although somebody can certainly correct me if I am wrong, since I didn't actually see the game. But I think the same pairing of Truce Kong and Cathcart will be there for the start of the game on Saturday against Newcastle. And Danny Rose, I think, will keep his left back position. Kiko Femenia, I don't know. Maybe he will start on Saturday. We'll see. It could happen. He is in contention to be in the squad and in the first team starters. I would love to see him there. I know he had a slight injury, but he seems to be in pole position to get back his place, and he may even start. And that would be really good news if he did. And Ngakia, I thought was very good against Tottenham. I thought he was the only person to write home about in the loss against Wolves. And some of the fans, fellow fans who got to see the game against Stoke, had definitely said that he was at fault for one of the goals. So again, having not seen the game, I can't go on it. I can only go on what the fans are telling me, and I've got no reason to think that they would be misleading me. So fellow fans have said that Ngakia was at fault, or at least had a part to play in causing one of the Stoke goals to occur or leading to one. So I don't know that Ngakia is going to start. I'd like to see that right back position be held by Femenia, with Ngakia coming off the bench. I think Ngakia in general has been pretty decent for Watford in the Premier League so far. I think he has a sense of discipline. He just has to be a bit more careful, I think, at times, but he's young and he will mature. And I think Cisco trusting him is a good thing. Now, as far as the midfield's concerned, as I said, I think Tufan will be on the bench. I expect Cleverly to start again. And what you're probably going to see is Kuchka and Sissoko playing either side of Cleverly. I think that's going to stay the same. And I think that the front line is also going to stay the same. And with João Pedro perhaps being in contention, I don't think João Pedro is going to start this game. I think he will be on the bench, but I do think he'll make an appearance. And I think this game may be such that he has to make an appearance. And it will be very interesting because you've got Cucho Hernandez playing, he can play left or right. You've got João Pedro, who can be a roamer. He can really play in a lot of different areas of the pitch. He's a number 10. He is someone who roams freely. He is an improvisational player. He's somebody who has good technique. He has a flair for the dramatic and the unpredictable, which is not a negative thing for him. I think he's a very good improviser in that way. And he has certain intangibles that I don't think a lot of other players on Watford do have. I mean, there are a couple who do, but someone like João Pedro, and again, I don't want to say this in a derogatory way, he can be a wild card for Watford. He can produce something. He is someone who can produce a little bit of quality out of nothing. He did it a lot in the games in the championship last season. You saw him score some really great goals. He can also provide some assists. I think he's very, very good with his passing, especially in the box and in close quarters in the 6 and 18-yard boxes. I think he's really good that way. So, anything you get from João Pedro, would be an absolute bonus. I'm so pleased that he's back and potentially could start, but I don't think Cisco's going to start him. I think Cisco will bring him off the bench. Look, he's been off for a long time. He had an injury back in July in training, knee injury, and he's had to really work hard to get back. So I think it will be a really good coming out party potentially for João Pedro, who I think gives Watford an extra dimension. And I would love to see him on the pitch. We'll see when he comes on the pitch, but I do think he will play a role in this game. So again, the main points here on this Friday focus for Watford against Newcastle for the Orns, very important to maintain that mentality that they brought into the games against both Norwich and Stoke. And the big thing is obviously going to be finishing. You're going to have to get finishing from your forwards. Obviously, Josh King now, I think the onus is on him to put the ball in the back of the net, which is a difficult thing to do in football. It's the most difficult thing to do in football. But the onus now is on Josh King. Josh King's worked very hard for this team. He's doing a lot of things that I don't know that people really give him enough credit for. But he is doing all the kinds of things that you have to do to be a team player. And he's making the team better by what he does. The runs in behind, the space that he makes, the runs that he makes around, as he's done around a couple of defenders. He did that at Norwich to find some spaces where people aren't going to, and then passing the ball. He's got good awareness on the pitch, Josh King. And I think now it's time for him to start scoring some goals. And I think he will. I think he'll come good. I think he'll even score against Newcastle. And, I think it's coming for him. And I think he's very, very close to getting his first goal in a Watford shirt. So the key, again, as I say, mentality, a tempo, a continuous focus on being on the front foot in the game and proper game management. And I think Watford should be able to come away with a positive result against Newcastle. I think very much so. I think I'm very confident about it. Newcastle certainly have some players that Watford will have to look out for, but I think Watford, with this crowd and with their performances of late and with the positivity and the mentality, I think Watford should be able to come out on top against Newcastle United tomorrow.